popping. Welcome to The Flow.
The Flow.
I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And man, listen, we are in podcast movement in Dallas, all right? We already got a little bit warmed up. Shout out to Doc. Doc had us on his channel. We had all the different tech issues and things like that. He's still working it. He's still working it. You see the little cameo. See the little cameo, right? But let me tell you, this...
Crazy.
First off, we officially made a podcast, Moose, a whole podcaster now. Like before, he was like a virtual podcaster. Okay, he was like, "Oh, I'm in my room. I can turn on the mic, all that great stuff." He now outside. He like,
bro,
yo, we outside.
I'm looking at
Yeah, I mean, shout out to everybody who's jumping in. Let's try this again. What's better than Nicky in the morning? I don't know. Let's try that answer again. I'm not really sure, but do me a favor, everybody who's checking in, right? Where are you watching this from? Regardless if you're watching this live, regardless if you're watching this replay, let us know where you are checking in. Of course, I always got to check on Moose. Moose, how are you feeling?
Man, I'm doing great. We was just having a conversation on the last live just about how amazing this is. It's like one thing when you're recording in the room by yourself, you and the camera. It feels a little lonely. It feels a little awkward. And then you come outside and you see all these people and you're like, man, this is fun. So I'm super excited, man. I feel so good. This is amazing. And more than anything, I'm really excited to learn more about just the world of podcasting. And hopefully we can encourage some of you to jump into this world. Yeah. And you'll get a better experience than I did, because I got a very limited experience in the beginning. My experience was very lonely, very dim in the pandemic, right? But this is the real world of podcasting, and we're hoping that we can introduce you to that world, and you could utilize Ecamm to just help you get going in a very easy and efficient way.
So first off, I don't know why you're not here, right? I don't know why you didn't get your ticket to Podcast Movement. You could have came through the booth. You could have said hi to us. You could have said hi to Doc, Katie. Like, I don't know why you're not here. There is, I want to say, hundreds.
Thousands.
Okay, we'll say
they said 3,500.
Oh.
Yeah, big numbers.
Okay, all right. I was trying to think small right here, but I guess there's thousands of podcasters, aspiring podcasters out in Dallas right now. It was crazy. So let me side note on something. First off, we're two New Yorkers in Texas, okay? Let's do a horn for that. All right? I ain't got no problem with Texas. However, y'all going through a plague right now. I'm not understanding this with the locusts. There's a whole bunch of insects that were taking over the building. I'm not really sure what happened, and I was scared. That's a side note. But back to reality, because I just wanted to put that out there, because that shout out to all you Texas people, but y'all didn't warn us about that. We not used to all these weird-looking crickets all over the place. You saw that?
Yeah.
Yo.
One came in my DoorDash.
Talk about it.
And one came in my DoorDash package. Lucky it wasn't food. And I opened my bag and the big cricket came out. I slapped that mug against the wall. Yo, it was huge.
All right. So they selling pizza and crickets on DoorDash. All right. Shout out to DoorDash.
Special.
But we're here because one, we got kind of a top podcast out. Two, we're just about to reach 100 episodes in the podcast world. And we got to talk about the world of podcasting. That's why we're here. We're seeing people from Spotify, got HubSpot, we got Speaker, we have a whole bunch of different vendors out here. The vendor section alone is fire. We have the best booth, though. We have the best booth. There ain't nothing like us, right? It had the best booth. But there's hundreds and hundreds of different vendors here just to kind of give the resources to your podcast. One more survey before I go to Moose. One more survey. Who has a podcast? Type in one, or me, if you have a podcast. Two, if you're like, yo, I'm thinking about getting a podcast. I'm thinking about starting one. I kind of been dabbling. I may have recorded something. You feel me? Like, so one, if you have a podcast, let me see who's in the building. Two, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, because it just started with a conversation with us.
Yeah, for real, literally. And for those of you who don't know our story, man, we, in the middle of COVID, I think it might have been just like literally the first week, MJ documentary was on. And we were just saying, hey, why don't we just go live and share our thoughts about the documentary? And it started on Facebook, and it was a super by accident situation. I had all the janky equipment. I don't want to say we, because I had all the janky equipment. I had a little reading lamp that I was using as my lighting. It was just horrendous. And little by little, that popped middle of the show.
We're going to talk about the mistakes. We're going to talk about the mistakes, all right?
Flintstone camera. But long story short, man, we just kept figuring it out, and came across amazing resources like Ecamm that helped us to do an entire podcast. Nicky mentioned 100 episodes. Out of those entire 100 episodes, by the way, only 3 of them we did live in person together. Every other episode, all 97, with interviews of other guests, with us using other videos and other content streams just to talk about as part of our business and branding show. All of it was done completely virtual, utilizing Ecamm. So it's been a heck of a journey, man. So to reach that milestone, sorry if I give ourselves a little bit credit here.
Go ahead.
I'm just excited that, we're here and now we're with a lot of people. That's kind of cool.
Listen, but low key, Ecamm got us an award. I don't know if you remember that. Because of being a remote podcast, we were like silver.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Silver medal at one of these media awards thing. Yeah. I forgot the name of it, but it was super fire because it was like the best remote podcast.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we had second place. I'm trying to get first place next time. You know
this time.
I ain't gonna hold you. But like looking back at it, it was kind of crazy to even see how that was even brought about. Like you said, it was the conversation. We mentioned on the last live, kind of saying like, yo, it's just conversations that we continuously had that we kept saying, yo, this should be recorded. This should be recorded. And we kept saying, I was saying like 5-6 times, yo, we say some fire things, right? And I want you guys in who's watching to even think about it. Like how many times you say, yo, that was fire. Like low key, that was really I felt like I should have recorded this. I felt like, and in those moments, you should be thinking like, yo, I should have a podcast. I should have a podcast. The crazy thing is that even with video taking over, right, it's about feeling comfortable. Like we were trying to discuss earlier, it's about feeling comfortable and getting comfortable down this lens, talking to it. And that could be a bit intimidating, but at the same time, right, understanding that, I got to get my words out.
That's true.
I just got to get my words out. In the beginning, it's going to feel weird. Yeah. And you just got to get through those jitters, right? And so, your first couple of podcasts, the first couple of episodes, they're going to be trash.
Pretty bad.
No. I want everybody to say, if you are thinking about starting a podcast, my first couple of episodes are going to be trash.
And that's okay.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
It has to. If anybody knows me, I talk about content in every single thing. And if you was to go back to your Facebook, go back to those people who had MySpace, go back to your MySpace, go back to your first post on Instagram, my YouTubers, go back to your first YouTube, you're going to say it sucked. You're going to say that. It's supposed to. What we're supposed to figure out is our style.
That's right.
We're supposed to figure out our format. We're supposed to figure out, what works, what doesn't work. Our first one isn't going to be a home run.
Yeah.
I don't know why people think that.
Yeah, it's this perception in our mind that immediately we want to get to whatever success looks like. So as soon as we start, we're going to be there right away. Yep. But quite frankly, there's a lot of kinks that you have to remove. And again, I'm not just speaking from a hypothetical standpoint. I want to share, my experience as someone who's been on this platform for well over 2 years. It takes time to get the bad reps out of you, to figure out your voice and your stance, and really figure out what you believe in. Especially in the world that we live in today, and not to kind of bring this into, the topic, but quite honestly, there's a lot of stuff that's divisive. There's a lot of stuff that is going to make you say, shoot, should I talk about this? Should I not talk about this? At the end of the day, you need to figure out, hey, what do I believe in? what kind of message do I want to put out there? What kind of information do I want to put out there? And that stuff takes time. You know, that's not stuff that you're just going to turn on the camera and from episode 1 make it to the top of the charts. It's going to take some time for you to figure that stuff out. So that's definitely from a personal standpoint. But I do want to talk about the importance of podcasting, video, audio, however you want to see it, for business and brand. You know, we talked on the previous live at just how crazy and how immersive and how absolutely necessary video is today. We see all of the platforms, social media with Instagram, TikTok, all these different platforms, changing their algorithms and even the way the feed is shown to be more video friendly. They're rewarding creators to, you know, create video content. So maybe just talk about the importance of video content, especially that when it comes to building brand and business along with that.
It's about building credibility, about building trust. It's about putting a face to the name, to the brand, right? And when we think about that, it's like video is so consumed is because we are such in a virtual world.
Yeah.
So this is as close as we're going to get to people. What I love about video and how content is right now is that I feel like I'm in the room with people. I feel like that whole cliche of get in the room, we're getting in the room right now.
Right, literally.
Right, like you guys are in the room when it comes to podcast movement right now. We're giving you some behind the scenes situation. We're telling you about it, the different sessions and things like that. Like you're in the room without necessarily being in the room. You're getting the information that 9 out of 10 times would cost a guap of money. But with podcasts now and with video, right, you get to hear the information, you get to see how it impacts everybody, you get to feel the emotion and the passion of people just off of this camera, right? Regardless if you have your phone, right? So don't feel like when we're starting out a podcast, I gotta have the best equipment and things like that. Shout out to our friends at Earn Your Leisure. They started with like a phone.
Literally.
A phone, a tripod, and I think like some mics. And that was it. And if you look up Earn Your Leisure right now, they're the #1 business podcast out, right? They were just on CNN and things like that. And they started with a phone. So
crazy.
They could have went audio only,
right,
but they understood where the trends were going. They understood where where people were looking. And like, if I want to create a true movement and a true archive of this information that we're giving out, I gotta create video. I gotta put it on YouTube, because we'll talk about it, where YouTube now has a whole dedicated situation for podcasting, right? You go into youtube.com/podcast with an S, right? You're going to see popular podcasts, popular playlists. You're gonna see the popular creators on it. We're starting to get a little bit more exposure with being on video when it comes to podcasting. That is beyond huge, because the biggest problem with podcasts is like, how do I grow my audience?
Right. Yeah, and truth be told too, when you look at just the numbers flat out, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that is just getting started. I mean, with the exception of maybe what's the guy's name? I think
Rogan.
There you go. 20 years ago or 15 years ago, he was one of the very first people to get going with podcasting. And at the time, everyone just thought of it as a radio show. It's just now that more people are catching on. And I mean, think about some of the biggest events in any industry that you go to. Think about the number of people that are usually there. And I'm talking about probably 10, 20, 30,000 people at some of these events, right? Where here, there are only 3,500 people. And this is one of the mega podcasting events. So in comparison to what some of these other industries that have really popped, what kind of numbers they're doing, we're probably a third of the way there. So for those of you who are thinking to yourself, man, but I don't want to start a podcast because everybody got a podcast. Well, guess what? No, it's not true.
Not everybody has a podcast.
All, right? It's still growing. There's still room for you to get in there. And like I always talk about, from a business standpoint, what better way to get an audience or a potential client or customer to start to know, like, and trust you? We know how important that factor is. By listening to your voice on a weekly basis where you're helping them, and they're almost starting to feel as though you're doing life with them, right? In whatever area that you're specializing in or focusing on, the audience starts to feel like, man, I need that dose of Nicky in my ear. I need that dose of Moose in my ear to get me through the week, to get me through, maybe to encourage me to post my next piece of content, or figure out how I should just put my sign up one more day for my business and try and pursue that entrepreneurial journey. Whatever it is, there's no better way to do it than just a casual conversation. It's probably one of the easiest ways to gather content, and at the same time, simultaneously, you're building trust and credibility with your audience, so as you start to expand and want to possibly monetize or whatever the case may be, you at least have some traction or some groundwork laid there for people to start coming in and really building with you.
Yeah, and if you look at the span of podcasts, there is all different types of conversations happening. You don't even, like, you could literally just talk.
Yeah.
Like, shout out to Joe Budden, right? He brings his friends and he talks. That's it. No real true crazy agenda or anything like that. Yo, I want to hang out with my friends. I want to have a conversation with them on a weekly basis. We talk every day, but let's get in a spot. Let's turn on the cameras. Let's have a conversation. And my man is one of the top podcasters out. He's like, regardless of whatever happened, he's still on top. And so when we're looking at creating a podcast, what do we have conversations with every single day? What
Literally.
do we not mind having conversations? Now, that doesn't mean create a podcast that is every single day. Bare minimum, you got to have it for like a week.
Good point. Yeah.
Right? So, yes, there are podcasts that are every day. There are podcasts that hit you about multiple times a week, right? Bare minimum for consistency, we do once a week.
Once a week. Yep.
Once a week. That is it. Once a day. And when you think about it, because we have I got to create and then I got to promote.
Yeah. I want to ask you this question too, because this is something that you just helped me out tremendously with. Talk about repurposing content for a lot of the people who just literally don't have time to record content, and they've used that as their, call it a reason, call it an excuse. I want to be nice to you just because until we get to know each other, then I'll be a little bit more tougher on you, right?
Right.
But whether it's your reason or your excuse for not putting out content, you're saying, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Talk about how podcasting gives you just a beautiful alley-oop to repurpose content and have content for weeks at a time just because you did a 1 hour podcast.
Yeah, so in an hour you say multiple things, right? Multiple things that is going to add value to your audience, right? Now, what we can't assume is that we drop an hour podcast and everybody listens to the whole hour, okay? Actually, in the chat or in the comments when you're watching this replay, you see a brand new podcast, brand new. Are you listening to it all the way at first? Or you getting like, let me hear a little bit of it. If I like it, I'm gonna continue. If I don't, I'm gonna roll out, right? We have to understand people, just because we drop something that may be an hour, 30 minutes, 40 something minutes, we can't assume they're gonna drop everything and roll out, right? So with doing a video podcast, especially that's over 30 minutes, I say over 10 minutes. Yeah. 10 minutes, hour, 2 hours, however long you have it, you cut that up to multiple pieces of content. You're now having several reels, several shorts, several TikToks. You're having clips for YouTube, whether it's 5-minute clips, 7-minute clips, right? You are having quotes, right? You're having blog posts. You're having multiple pieces of content, all because you dedicated about an hour, 10 minutes to an hour to say, yo, each week we're going to do content, and it's going to be intentional content. And so when we're struggling to be like, okay, what am I going to post? Right. All that great stuff. Yo, we never have to struggle for content ever again. Yeah. We never have to do that. Why? Because we take that hour, we cut it up into multiple pieces, cut it up things for YouTube so things can be searchable. Because you got to understand, and this, let me go into my social media bag for like 3 seconds. Instagram isn't searchable, right? Creating a podcast, if you put Nicky and Moose, our Apple's going to show up, our Spotify is going to show up, our Google Podcast is going to show up, our YouTube is going to show up, audio and video is going to show up, our website's going to show up, right? Multiple things is going to show up because we want to create content now that is searchable. It means nothing if we create it and we can't find it later. Then we're just creating for the moment, and as creators, that's cool. But maybe down the line somebody wanted to look up, what was Garyvee's content strategy, right? Well, we covered that on Nicky and Moose, and if you put that in, boom, that's going to come up.
Yeah.
You could look that up 2-3 years later from now. The audio and the video is going to show up.
Wow, huge benefit. I didn't even know about that one. I was just strictly on repurposing content for those fellow people out there who are like myself, who just get so overwhelmed by this idea of creating new content. So I love how you're saying, repurposing content. Shout out to one of the attendees here who are amazed by Ecamm Live. Yeah, welcome to Ecamm Live. This whole show is powered by Ecamm Live, and you should check it out, man. One of the best ways to get your stuff up and running. Super dope.
No, so really, and I love how this booth is. I love how we're able to stream live and things like that, talk to you guys, because when we're talking about, all right, I'm starting our podcast, what in the world does Ecamm Live have to do with that, right? Like, that's our whole podcast. And I think that's mainly why they got us out here, is because since episode 1, we used Ecamm Live, right? And it was just a matter of pressing buttons that made it super easy. I'm not trying, and to be honest with you, I'm not trying to create something that's super complex, get a whole bunch of editors, spend weeks editing the situation, when Ecamm Live is literally there to, like, I press a button, a video comes up. I press a button, the comments come up, right? If I had the thing, I would show up more of the comments, but Doc is running in and he's talking, right? He's talking, people. So if you don't see your comments, it's not because I don't want to.
Right.
It's because he said he was going to run it, all right? Tell him I said this. Tell him I said, you see how I'm whispering now? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Tell him I said, I want to see your comments, and I can't. But keep commenting, because I'm going to see it later, all right? But but it's things like that where, like, we go live every Tuesday for the podcast, right? And we'll put up the comments. We'll show different scenes. We're acting as if we have multiple camera angles, and we don't. Right? We'll, like, zoom in, zoom out. We'll show a different frame. We won't show the frame, everything like that. It's a push of a button to have a show. And it makes him comfortable.
Super.
Okay? Mind you, my man, if you were on the last live, we were talking about how his journey of video was. Of how he could look down the camera and he's like, nah, I don't feel comfortable. All right, let me do interview mode. And so Jay-Z talked about this with Kevin Hart, and he looks all intense, right? And then he'd be like, all right, my camera and my laptop is up high, so I'm going to talk like I'm talking to you, and you're mad tall, even though you're 5'2", right? But I'm going to make you look like you're mad tall, and then I'm going to look down because you are short, so I'm going to look down at you, da-da-da-da. Like, Ecamm has made him a video star now, right? Not just podcast star. He's a YouTube star now. Actually, hold on. Let's have this conversation. So a random person, we don't know. This is the power of podcasting. We don't know this person. Came through, was like, y'all from YouTube. Y'all from YouTube. Y'all have a podcast. I've been checking out your podcast. Your podcast is fire, right? Moose is a very, like, chill, and now he goes outside. Yo, I watch your podcast. I listen to your podcast. I'm like,
crazy.
How's it feel, Moose?
Crazy, man. It's incredible. And, it's crazy because I think from day one, I've always said podcasting is one of those things where you can't measure its success. You really don't know. Yeah, you can look at the numbers and the downloads and some of those things, but the true effect that it's having on the people, that you can't really measure if you're not constantly in a place like this, right? A gathering spot or a hub where people who are familiar with your work or are just familiar with the world of podcasting can interact and give you live feedback. Yeah. So that, for me, I appreciate. I like to be able to kind of do this right here and say, oh, okay, it's a real person, and they're giving me feedback, and that it's effective. So that was definitely, super cool. And again, it shows you that you can do many different things in this world. It doesn't always just have to be strictly money. If you're someone who's a little bit like, no, I'm not a money-hungry person, that's okay. You can still touch the people or impact people with your message and your story and your information just by simply doing this right here.
No, in fact, Abby, can you do me a favor? Can you get the new comment? I need to see the comments, all right? And Doc, So the
Oh,
mouse.
from the mouse.
Just go to the new comments part. Just scroll down. I'm finding your comments, people. I'm finding it. There we go. Okay, great. Appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so do me a favor. Shout out to Paul. I see you, Paul. If you got any questions about podcasting, let us know. We're probably going to sneak off in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold you, and we're going to come back. So what we're going to do, we're going to sneak off to the sessions. All right? We're going to grab some notes, and we're going to come back and tell you guys a bit of it. Not all of it, because you guys should have been here. Okay? You guys should have already been doing your podcast. You should have been at Podcast Movement, coming to the sessions with us, but you're not. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go. We're going to see some of the things. We're going to come back. So actually, in the comments or in the chat, what is some of the things you want to learn more about podcasting, right? And I think Ecamm coming out with an event, but we're not going to go too much into detail about that just yet. You know what I mean? We're making it about Podcast Movement, but we'll probably talk about it a little bit, right? But what do you want to know more about podcasting? Because what we're going to do is we're going to find the answers for you. If we don't know the answers,
We got you.
we going to find the answers for you, all right? So, what time is it? It's 10:31. I think we were originally supposed to go live at 1, so we're going to come back, all right? We're going to come back, but I need y'all questions, so I'm going to go back to this live. We're going to go back to this live. We're going to see, we're going to gather the situation, and we're going to roll out, all right? So, I'm Nicky. That's Moose. This is The Flow. And we're going to come back at 1 o'clock. All right? You already know what we're going to say.
Peace, y'all.